G'day everybody, Rehounded here. I would like to tell you about a game that has been living rent-free in my brain for the past couple of days. Hero's Adventure Road to Passion is an open-world sandbox RPG that shows what life would be like if every man, woman and child was Chinese. And come on, let's just face it, our new overlords are probably not going to be the Jews. In the future, based on polymarket predictions, our new overlords are going to be the Chinese. I am okay with this, however, due to the fact that China has a considerably larger population of tomboys in their country compared to the nation of Israel. And also, just a quick PSA, I will not tolerate any authoritarian fascist statements in my comment section, such as femboys are infinitely better than tomboys. I just want to let you know, before you type that shit down, that you are wrong, a faggot, and you need to leave. Us tomboy enjoyers will no longer be oppressed by the femboy horde any longer. We will rise up and state once and for all that tomboys are vastly superior, and then after that, we will send all of the femboys to the modern day equivalent of Auschwitz and have them all exterminated for their crimes against humanity. Getting back to the topic, Hero's Adventure Road to Passion, which I will now refer to just as Hero's Adventure, is set in the mythical sword fantasy genre of wuxia, which is basically the Western equivalent of high fantasy, but a lot more Chinese. The game starts off with you, of course, creating your character in a pretty simple character creation menu, where you choose things like stats. Now, what does this decide? Does the game ever tell you? No, it does not. So in the spirit of fairness, I won't tell you either. You then also have to pick your starting weapon, although this isn't a very important choice, considering the fact that you do not gain any experience from using weapons. But instead, you gain your weapon proficiency by reading manuscripts, which may seem like a more boring way of gaining proficiency compared to actually doing combat, but I know better than to argue with the Chinese on game mechanics, because it's basically pointless. So don't be afraid to switch things up if it's getting stale. But the most important decision you could make in your character creation by far is what traits you choose, which usually range anywhere to borderline useless to game breaking. On your first run, you're not expected to have a perfect build, mainly because most of the good traits are locked, and the only way you could unlock them is by doing challenges in your current playthrough to unlock traits that you could use in subsequent playthroughs. One such trait is the Sage Successor, which bumps up all your social values to the max. What are social values, you might be wondering? Well, social values are mostly represented through the wuxia-inspired system of morality and social interactions that shapes your player's journey. The 6 main social pillars that hold up wuxia social values are as follows: benevolence, righteousness, wisdom, courage, loyalty, and credit. All of these stats determine whether if the public perceives you as a good, morally just, upstanding citizen or an evil, morally bankrupt rapist. But if you have your social values all the way to the max, you would be able to talk your way out of anything and pass basically every dialogue skill check, which is by far one of the most overpowered things you could do in the game. The last 2 things you could decide is what items you'd like to start off with. Hero's Adventure actually takes a page out of From Software's book of game development by making the items you start off with completely useless and worthless. The last thing you could change is what direction your character is facing. Once you decide that, you could finally start the game. Oh yeah, also, don't forget to give your China man an authentic Chinese name. Kui Fong Ming Lang Rice Muncher, reporting for duty. Just after you see this epic cutscene, which relays the game's backstory, which I also subsequently do not remember, because it was genuinely so confusing, I almost had a seizure on the floor of my bedroom. Luckily for me, this game doesn't have that ugly ass sounding anime voice acting, which I dread in almost every single game I play, but instead has authentically dubbed Chinese voice acting.
In the year of Bing Wu, the court was torn by factions, and the nation's strength declined day by day.
This is like the best voice acting I've ever seen in my life. This is on a whole other level. The game starts off with you getting thrust into the shoes of your character, who is much like yourself, an unemployed homeless loser who falls out of a tree, just as 2 people are fighting. One of them is a criminal, and the other one is a tomboy. This is where you get to make your first decision, and much like video games made out here in the West, the decisions you make in this game don't really make a difference. So it doesn't really matter which person you decide to help, because the outcome will probably be the same. Now, I'm sure some people in my audience would like to save a particular person in this situation, and if you think just because you save her, she might let you hit, well, if you think this, I am incredibly sorry. Once you save one of them, you then head over to the temple where you get told to fuck off for a few days, and that's exactly what I did. I went all over the place. I wandered into a forest where I got attacked by a bunch of wildlife, and then I went into a village where I met a guy called Lewd Old Man who was lying down in the front of the village, where he then proceeded to kick the shit out of me and then forced me to become a part of his sect. In return, he comes in and helps me whenever I'm losing a battle, which did end up helping me in the future when I eventually had a boss battle with a red hog who killed me a shit ton of times, but thanks to the old man, he helped me kill him. This game isn't like other games when it comes to progressing the story. You progress it by going from place to place and then completing quests to raise your popularity so you can unlock more quests that give you better rewards. This could range anywhere from going to a valley and killing a bunch of wolves to deciding the outcome of wars. Think of China as an innocent baby sitting in your hands. You could do whatever you want with it. You could raise it to glory and let it accomplish great things, or you could crush the baby's skull right there in your hands. It's your choice and it's up to you. I would go over the combat and gameplay, but it is very similar to other games that I've played before. I am aware that some people might think that I look a little different compared to my last video, and I just want to let you know that you are wrong and I look exactly the same as before without any change whatsoever. And I know there may be some people out there thinking that I look a little similar to another YouTuber who also reviews games. And I just want to let you know that I have no clue who this man is, and what I'm doing right now is 100% legitimate, and I am definitely not plagiarizing anyone in any way. Have a good one.